Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling in from today. I'm Rick Palea. I lead the customer organization here at SmartSuite. Today we have a very focused but exciting webinar focused on BCP. You all know that based on the agenda, but I don't think you quite know the depth in which we'll get into and what I believe to be very innovative takes on managing BCP at a larger organization. So quick housekeeping before I turn it over to the stars. A few things. We'd love to hear where you're from. A lively chat is always the lifeblood of our webinars here. Take a lot of pride in that. So please be vocal. Let us know where you're calling in from. If you want to drop that in the chat, I'll get us started here. So I'm calling in from Austin this morning, South Africa. Yeah, we almost always have an international audience, so I love to see it. Welcome, Keegan and Christine, and Jamie, and Brian. Here we go. Also, if you have questions, we'll try to field them in the chat, but much easier if you drop them into the Q&A down at the bottom of Zoom. You'll see that little box, open it up, drop your questions in, and we'll do our best to weave those answers in throughout. And lastly, we love the reactions in Zoom. I'm a huge fan. Personally, this lets us know that you're engaged. You love what Preston and John are going through today. So those reactions, that little heart down at the bottom, if you click into that, you'll see some effects. It'll pop across your screen and all that goodness. All right. So that shows us you're tuned in. With that, I'll keep my intro short, pass it over to Preston if you want to do some formal intros and get us kicked off for the day.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Rick. And hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are at. My name is Preston Gillum. I am a GRC product manager here. And so I spend my days putting together solutions and building out processes and different use cases for clients and prospects as it relates to different GRC processes. And so across compliance, cybersecurity, even ITSM, and then also today, which is the focus of today, which is business continuity and disaster recovery. And so today we're going to walk through a solution. We're going to talk through some of the different features of SmartSuite features, and then maybe even some AI. And then also we have a special guest, John Brewer, who is here today. I'll let him do a full intro, but he is a client using SmartSuite for business continuity, and he's going to give some input in terms of how the tool works, how it's working for their team, and then also just tips and tricks as you guys may look to do that as well within your solution. So John, I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of tell everybody what you've been doing within SmartSuite and just your role in general.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Preston. I appreciate that. So, yeah, I lead up the global physical security and business continuity at a very large pharmaceutical CDMO. My remit kind of spans across regulatory compliance, physical cyber convergence, business continuity implementation. So, I guess without further ado, yeah, so SmartSuite became a strategic enabler for us. We worked towards aligning operations with the ISO 22301 2019 standards, while also kind of satisfying some overlapping frameworks like SOC 2, NIST 2, internal DR readiness with our cyber team. So, yeah, we really anchored everything on that ISO 22301 that gave us the governance structure to kind of centralize the operational resilience. And then from continuity planning to response and recovery, in our regulated environment that we deal with. It also, excuse me, bridges with SOC 2 trust principles, especially availability and security, and then also into the NIST 2 directives, which are essential entity expectations. So yeah, SmartSuite has really allowed us to translate that standard into structured, operational tooling without needing really a third-party GRC platform, at least for us. We've done a lot within the system. I mean, in terms of business impact analysis modules, so building out custom forms to capture processes, RTOs, MTPDs, minimum resource needs, upstream, downstream dependencies. And then also to, from an 8.2 compliance within 22301, I mean, we're able to record it. It's tagged, it's traceable. It has version control. Thanks to SmartSuite, it's a lot simpler to see it. RTO and MTPD fields are also being able to be tied into the DR scope to validate if we have coverage. And then dependency registers are also really big for us with equipment applications, external vendors. So DR testing, it goes on and on. I mean, it's so much that you can go into it, but really, I guess without further, I mean, to kind of give everybody the pull here is that SmartSuite's advantage in the regulated context is that you're really getting a flexible data model. I mean, it's built on ISO aligned schemas from scratch already. I mean, recovery strategies are mapped directly. There's no code logic, used except for the formulas, which are pretty easy to do with AI nowadays. And then visibility rules. So, I mean, audit ready outputs are another big thing as well for us. But I guess to kind of get off my script and really just to kind of, I guess, give you guys the genuine piece of it is we moved away from a very big risk management platform a little while back. I was very nervous getting into a new tool, especially with all the different data levels that we had. SmartSuite made it extremely easy to import that data over. I mean, I think we imported everything in our data library within like a day. So it was really crazy to see that transition of data into the platform. And then from there, I know that there's a ton of Academy, SmartSuite Academy and classes and courses and things that you can go to learn it. But I'm more of a learn guitar by hearing it and playing it versus, reading sheet music. And that's kind of how I've been with SmartSuite since joining. So it's sort of like so easy a caveman can do it from the commercial. I dove right off into it and started building out sections, subsections, aligning it to 22301. And I think that that's where it really became powerful for us is because as we brought on more stakeholders and as we broke into more regulatory requirements, we weren't confined into a box like your typical, risk management platforms are, where you really have what they provide you versus what you can build out on your own. It's very low code, no code. And just the value of the seats and being able to pull more and more people on. I mean, as you know, in a BC perspective, you want to pull everybody's data in that you can to get the most accurate data. So it's always a quid pro quo with us in the company where we find somebody who's, doing things on Excel spreadsheets or, some kind of SharePoint form, and then we're able to give them access to the platform. And then as it become it, get that data through linked records as well. So huge value add. And I mean, just the cost reduction alone from going from that higher, tier system to this system it's been phenomenal. But I'll get off my my horse here and give it back over to you. I could sit here and talk about it all day.
No, I really appreciate that, John. And a lot of the things that he just mentioned, we're going to actually show today. So I wanted to kick off with just his experience and just kind of some of those value points from different things, flexibility, cost perspective, all of that. And then just also the tooling perspective. John outlined a lot of things in terms of it's the simplicity. I think we're going to tagline so easy a caveman can do it. I think that needs to be a new tagline for us. But at the same time, balancing and also having a mature and complex process and solution. And you even mentioned a lot of regulations and frameworks, and we're going to see some of that reflected today. And so I'm going to go ahead and start kicking this off and we'll get into it. The agenda for today, as I start sharing, is going to be, well, an intro, which we just did, and hearing from John and what they're doing with the solution. And then I'm going to show a couple slides. I only have two, so I won't spend much time in here, but want to spend a majority of this in the tool where we'll actually demonstrate and show you guys some different pieces of business continuity within the solution. And then finishing up with an open Q&A and conversation. If you guys have further conversations for John as we're going through this or at the end of this, you'll have an opportunity to do that as well. So. And John, as I'm going through this too, if I start talking about something and you have something you want to add, let me know. Want this to be interactive, want people to be able to hear from you throughout this conversation. So, all right. So to kick this off, well, I have today's panelists. You heard from Rick and John already, and then myself as the product manager and going to actually do the demonstration today. But as a high-level overview, this is my one wordy slide that I'll show, just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. And so I went through kind of a general agenda of an intro, a demonstration, and then Q&A. But in terms of actually in the demonstration, some things we're going to...
Have you talked to Andy from Gillette?
Oh, I think there we go. We're going to talk about a business impact analysis, so a BIA, and how you can conduct those within the solution, and then also being able to gather RTO, RPO, and criticality, and then additionally plans. And so having different types of plans within the solution and recovery activities, and then managing those, and then additionally being able to actually activate and utilize these plans within crisis, emergency response, and incidents, and things like that. And so we're going to talk about, and hopefully John has mentioned before in the past in a conversation, how everybody does business continuity or disaster recovery recovery differently. So hopefully, as we talk through each of these pieces, you see something that's relatable, something that catches your ear. We're going to talk a lot about automation. We're going to talk about AI within the tool. We're going to talk about not only a place to just house these plans, but actually make this a efficient and continuous tool for your business continuity program that is not just siloed, but is actually enterprise-wide as well. So how do we make this spread across our enterprise and make it useful for the entire organization? So that's my wordy slide, and then I have a diagram slide. This is a high-level view of the solution we're going to walk through. So everything in blue is included in the solution today, and this is available day one within your environment. And so everything you see could be downloaded and installed within your workspace and ready to go. And then we'll talk about some of that flexibility piece and customization piece to really tailor it to your organization if there's different things you want to adjust. But to quickly just see what we're looking at, what are all these boxes and lines within here. Starting over here on the left, these are all the dependencies or references that you're going to see throughout this solution. So taking into account the applications, the assets, the contacts, the vendors, even facilities within here. What are all these things within our enterprise organization that business continuity needs to take into account and be able to reference as we're rating criticality for these different processes, and then also as we're taking into account how wide these things spread within an emergency response. The next one within here is the assessment piece, which is where we'll start today, which is the business impact analysis, being able to do an assessment, and we're going to talk about some different ways we can conduct those and against those processes. So we're feeding the dependencies into the processes and then into the plans as well, and we're getting a criticality RTO, RPO from that BIA. And then we have the plans within here. And so we'll talk about how you can get your plans in here really easily, as John just mentioned, and then have continuous monitoring and management of those so they are ready to go at any time. And then how AI lays into this, and then also an exportable report of your plan and your recovery activities. And then emergency response as well. So it's great that you can house these plans, you can manage these plans, but how are we utilizing the tool to capture metrics for active events? How are we managing these? How are we managing the notification and distribution of these? And how are different users able to interact with these plans even from a smartphone device? And so we'll touch on each of these items within here. All right, without further ado, I will get out of these slides and we will get to the meat of this demonstration, which is within the tool. So I've just transitioned over. I am now within our GRC demo environment. You can see here I have logged in as an authenticated user and I am an account administrator, so I can see and do all. So SmartSuite is permission based, and so you can control what people can see and can do. And for those of you like John that want to be hands-on, that are tool efficient or even not tool efficient, SmartSuite is so easy that maybe you learn and you get hands-on experience. You have account administrator access to make adjustments we're going to talk about today. From the homepage, as I just landed on, right here in the middle are all of the solutions. So you can see we have our GRC suite, we have our ITSM and cybersecurity suite, and each of these boxes are the different solutions, methodologies, and processes that we offer. And then, of course, having the ability to have customized workflows as well. And so our focus today is going to be business continuity and walking through that. But you will see references to some other solutions, such as incident management in here as well, or even org structure, getting that enterprise approach. And so even though we are focusing in one area, SmartSuite is a relational database, and so we are able to make the connections across any of these, which is going to be really applicable with business continuity, as we also maybe want to involve vendors, we want to understand risk impact, compliance impact. This one solution can talk to all of these as well. So I'm going to click into here and we're going to go into our business continuity solution. I'm going to start off up here. It always takes me to where I last was, but we're going to start here at the beginning on this dashboard within our business continuity solution. And so, as I mentioned from the beginning, everything that you see here today is available day one. And so this could give you a place to start where then you can tailor from there, and we'll teach you exactly how to do some of that today. Up here at the top are all of those solutions that I just highlighted on that PowerPoint, but actually within the tool. And so we have our BIA, we have our processes that we can target that can be assessed within the BIA and then also pulled into our plans. We have a full plan workflow and automations within here, and also including our activity library. So if you have specific procedures and steps and activities that you want to document and then associate those with plans, those can have their own library. And then the ability to actually activate these plans and talk about capturing those metrics, capturing those durations, comparing those against RTO and RPO values. And so we'll see how all of this comes to life within our activated plans and recovery activities. And then we also have contacts, and then we even have some other tables that are supporting all of this, such as those applications, IT assets, and vendors as well. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off. We're going to start in a BIA and talk about how we can conduct this assessment within here. So as I click into this table, we're going to see this specific view. We're in a grid view, similar to Excel, where we can see each of our BIAs within the different process statuses. And so we have our draft ones, we have our in progress ones, are ready for review. These BIAs can go through a full assessment, review, and approval process. Throughout this, we are targeting a process. We'll drill into this in just a second, and we are doing our assessment for the ultimate output of understanding its dependencies, its criticality, RTO, RPO, and then also MTD as well. And so we will drill in here and see how we are getting those values. As I open this up, I'm in our business impact analysis. I'm in a specific example for customer onboarding and account management, where this BIA is targeting that specific process. And so in here in the general information section, we are first just saying, okay, what are we assessing? And what is the overview of this assessment, such as who are the different users on it? I am the analyst, and then Emma is the reviewer. So we have different people interacting with this, and these different user fields are driving our access. What can we see and what can we do because we are different roles within this specific record. We also see the process within here, and so it can go through draft all the way through approved, and then even if we need some updates required, it can go through those different statuses. And then down here, we have that target process. And so the off-the-shelf solution is going to target a process. It's going to target one process. However, if you wanted to target something else, such as a product or a service, or maybe an asset or multiple processes, you could do that as well. You can make that adjustment and really, really easily make sure this BIA is conducted with the accurate target for your process. All right, so now that we've set the stage, we understand who's involved with this, what the workflow is, and when it is kicking off, we can actually talk about how we are conducting this assessment. So there are two primary pieces for conducting this assessment that we are going to take into account. The first part is the impact ratings. And so within this solution off the shelf, we have 4 different impact ratings we're taking into account. So as we are assessing customer onboarding and account management, what is that financial impact on a scale of low all the way to high? What is that operational impact, reputation, and regulatory impact as well? We also have spots to provide the rationale. Why are you giving it that rating? And then any additional impact assessment considerations as this BIA information is collected. So this is the first part. This is just the assessment. These could also be questions. Maybe it's not a low to high scale. Maybe it's yes or no questions. You're asking about some of the process operation pieces specifically, or financial impact pieces specifically. You could go and make those adjustments. So if you want to adjust what we have within here, really easily, you can just click these 3 dots and modify and go make those changes. So if you wanted to maybe add a new value within here, or if you wanted to edit a value, that's as easy as that. We have just now gotten into the editable portion of this specific field and making it tailored to your organization. We also can provide numeric values. And so we're going to see in just a second how we take these numeric values and get a scoring. So if during your assessment, you have, whether it's through questions or different high to low ratings, you have quantitative values you want to associate, you can associate those with each of the responses that then roll up and give us a score. So tailoring this exactly to you, if you're an account administrator, John has done this a lot in terms of tailoring it exactly to what he wants to capture for their assessment and their process as well. In addition to just these values and questions, we're also taking into account all the dependencies and references. So this is the part 2 of this assessment that's really important to take into account. Is we're specifically targeting a process within this BIA, but where do these tentacles reach out to? What are they touching? And so we have maybe some upstream and downstream processes. We have some applications, some IT assets, and then even vendors. And so we're able to bring in all this information through these linked records. So each of these blue boxes is a linked record within SmartSuite, and these are foundational to making this a relational database. So even though this data lives in other tables and maybe even in other solutions, if you wanted to maybe bring in some risks and controls, or maybe some additional vendor information, you can add additional linked records and pull this information in and take this into account. This also is not just we're not just checking a box next to payment systems and human resources. This is a live iteration back and forth. And so the adjustments that are made here, maybe we add a new process or we add a new application that can then be flowed back into those tables and update those on the live process value as well. And so making this live and actionable data through these linked records.
And Preston, I'll just add here as a pro
Yeah.
tip in here because it's very important for dependencies as well. And what we found is that through these dependencies, everything doesn't have to live here, right? I mean, you can when you take into our account our relationship that we have going on at our company now, where IT is starting to get involved in this as well. When you're seeing these records and these line items, you can pull from other tables within inside of SmartSuite. So where like IT is storing their disaster recovery plans, when you start looking at your applications that are in here for dependency applications, at a local site level, your site might be working around, a workaround strategy for, if a certain application goes down, but maybe they don't, hold the overarching disaster recovery or recovery strategy for that application to bring it back online. It's great to be able to see that at a plan level, if a site loses access to an application, they have a local workaround strategy on how to get that done. Maybe it's a manual based process with paper or whatever else as far as a backup. But the beautiful thing is that now we can actually key in that we have an incident occurring that's impacting an application, and then that tie-in can jump over to the linked record table underneath disaster recovery within IT so that they're aware of the outage and they can actually start their disaster recovery as well. So it's really good when you can start actioning things like that. You're not having to worry about, internal ticketing systems or trying to take that extra step. It's like once you impact something within the system, it's automating that impact out to the other sides of the link record tables. So just a good pro tip there.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, John. These are really powerful fields, and being able to get really that enterprise, or that, I like to say, like tentacles, it's really where it's spreading across and where that impact is. I think that was perfectly said for the impact piece, John. Thank you. So after the assessment piece, where we're doing those impact ratings and also taking into account our dependencies and references, and we've done our analysis, I'm even the analyst within here, and it's ready for review, we now can see these assessment results pop up. And so I've just moved the status to ready for review, and now we have the assessment results roll up. So that's helping control, okay, we don't need to see the assessment results during the assessment, but now that Emma is coming in and reviewing, she can come in and see these results. And so each of these fields over here on the left with the FX is a formula field. And so as I noted, you can put those values behind the selections within the impact rating, and then we can utilize those to get a score. So now we understand our impact score based on those values behind there. And you can even customize what is that scoring? Are we multiplying, adding? Are we doing if-then statements? All of that within here. And then from those values, that impact score, we have a methodology for if it is these different impact scores, these are the RTO, RPO, and even criticality we want it to be. So if it is a 3, it is a high criticality. And so again, if you wanted to edit these and really customize these, let's say this formula you wanted to put in your methodology, being able to go into the settings of this and customize this formula exactly the way you want it. So what does maybe a 3 mean to you? What does a 4 mean to you? Maybe you're using more of a qualitative assessment. And so what do those selections mean in terms of criticality against the process within here? And so you can see here, we went through this full if-then numeric values, different impact scores within here to get us that initial value of how we got the criticality of high, because it is an impact score of 3 within here. And so being able to edit these, especially if you've done any type of Excel formulas, it's very similar and very easy, but now you're tying it into a automated and flexible tool within SmartSuite. And then within there, from the high criticality, we get our RTO and RPO values within here. And so even within there, what does different high, severe, medium mean in terms of those values? But let's say the system automatically does this, which is really helpful. It follows your methodology. You always have the chance to manually override. So you could be taking into account that additional context, maybe some of the dependency information, and say, oh, actually, we want a little bit of a tighter RTO. And so we can go in, we can apply that tighter RTO within there and see that that's reflected within here. And so then once we are done and we save this and we make this an approved BIA, those values will then be reflected within the process. So I'll go ahead and approve this and make that save and selection within here. And so all of these values are going to be the new values for customer onboarding in and account management. And now we can flow those into the process. So now within the process, we can see the criticality rating. We can see those interdependencies, which even if we made adjustments in those BIAs, those could be reflected within here. And then also we see the risk and recovery. So what is that new RTO and RPO value? And then that BIA that was just conducted against it as well. So that's the BIA process. And being able to do that assessment, as mentioned, this could be tailored and customized. If there's something we're not capturing, being able to go and hit the plus sign and add new fields within here, being able to change maybe the impact ratings or adding additional dependencies, all of those can be adjusted and done as well. Also want to highlight, which John mentioned this, is being able to collect this information from a form. And so you could put all of those fields. You can see right here, we're editing this form, we're creating this. This is another substantial function within SmartSuite where they're able to do that impact rating assessment, rationale, all of that from within a form, and they don't even need to be a SmartSuite user. So if we go and then share this form right here, then they can go and click on a link where we share it maybe through an email or we put it on an intranet, and they can go and submit all of this information straight from a form and not even have to log in or access SmartSuite. So there's a lot there. Forms can be used in a lot of different places. I won't spend too much time on this today. We have other webinars on it as well, but just another way you can loop in some additional functionality within here. Also want to highlight reporting. And so as those BIAs are conducted, we have a dashboard where we can see that data come to life and easily report it off of. So where are the different BIAs in the process, the different statuses within here. And then as we're conducting these BIAs against those processes, we also can roll those up to different business units so we can understand which business units or business domains of our organization have the most critical processes. So we can see, for example, commercial banking, it has a lot of critical processes compared to, risk management and compliance, or compared to human resources. And so then we can adequately distribute our resources there. We can even see here from a process matrix within here, what are those different business units and what are those processes and what is their criticality rating, their RTO and RPO, and then how many dependent applications and assets. So even from this view right here, as you're completing those BIAs or as you're relating all of this, as John said, you're relating these through the linked records in this relational database, I can get a really easy view right here in terms of what are my business units, what are my processes, and what are all those dependencies that relate to them, and how do I get this full view of impact, and then how do I drive this RTO and RPO against each of those items as well. So that's a transition. Now we'll transition into how we're planning for those impact, how we're planning for those disasters and those different continuity items that we need different plans for. And so we'll shift gears here, and now we'll move into the plans table. Something I want to highlight in here, one is the ability to house your plans at a very simple level, but more appropriately, how to manage these plans on an ongoing and continuous basis, and then having the system do a lot of the automating for you. Have the system do a lot of the work for you so that you are not manually going in and initiating things, testing things, even using AI to come on top of this and do a lot of the work, and then having the human in the loop afterwards as review, but being able to have the system do that for you. And so within this plans table, in this first view within here, you can see these plans that are going through the different statuses. And so we're drafting a plan, we're awaiting approval, maybe we're testing a plan. These are all our plans that are approved and ready to go. And then maybe any plans that are also activated, which means we're currently using our emergency response plan for some active crisis or incident. So we'll go ahead and click in here and talk about the details of here and talk about some of the tooling that SmartSuite has to help you with your plans. So I've just clicked in here. I'm now within a plan. I'm within our IT disaster recovery plan that I've queued up. I've started drafting this, and we're going to show some of the tools to continue to draft this. And so each of these tabs at the top, a SmartSuite functionality to be able to organize not only the fields, but also the process within here. So the process of developing this plan and managing this plan, I'll go through these different steps and walk through here as well. So starting off on the overview, up here at the top, just what is this plan identification? So this is our IT disaster recovery plan. It's in the draft status. It can go through all of these different statuses within here. It is related to different facilities. So facilities is something that lives in another table, but we are managing on an organizational or enterprise level. And so being able to associate, so if any point in time that data center in Sydney needs an IT disaster recovery plan, this will be directly linked into their facility, and they can go and grab that at any time and utilize it. We also have plan types, and so the ability to have all your plans in one place, whether it's a crisis management plan, it's an ITDR plan, it's a BC plan, all of those are within here, and we can designate which type of plan this is. And so you can then do a lot of filtering off of this and different management off of this, and also different metrics off of this as well by being able to filter by the different plan types. As I scroll down, we're going to see the overview, such as the purpose, objectives, scope, and assumptions, being able to fill these all out. And then you'll see these broken up by sections as well, where we even have some of the call out of some of the different regulation requirements so that you know that this plan is compliant with some of those regulations as well. Next within here is the ownership. Who are the different people involved within this plan? Who's the owner? We always have backup, right? We're in business continuity. And so an approver and a backup approver as well. And so being able to link these people. Not only is this going to align ownership, and we'll even talk about some reporting and dashboards that are specific to a plan owner versus an approver, but this is also going to drive notification. And so a key thing we're going to talk about later is notifying the communication, the distribution of these. And so being able to link each of these people in here is going to, then the system will reference those emails and get that communication out to be able to let them know about this plan in a live activated event. Next is the processes and dependencies. And so what processes are included within this plan? And so we have those processes, which we probably already conducted BIAs against, or we understand their criticality and RTO and RPO values. And then also all of those dependencies, similar to on the BIA. I said we would see this a lot within the tool, being able to reference and associate all of these items to the specific plan. So we understand, okay, these are all of those impact variables of this plan of if an IT disaster recovery was, or an IT disaster was to happen. And so we see those vendors, IT assets, dependency or applications, and then also any BIAs that may be equivalent to how we're getting these criticality values as well. Something that's automated in here is this dependency. So you're not having to link all of these manually and go see, okay, what is dependent on each of these processes. As soon as you make an update in here, like let's say we're going to add marketing, for example, and we save that, all the other records and fields will be updated dynamically based off of that. So you can see I had 6 here, it just updated. So now I have 8, it brought in that marketing documentation. So as soon as I associate any of these dependencies, the rest of them are going to dynamically update. So you're not having to do any of that management. As long as you have that initial mapping to the process or even to any of the assets, as soon as you add new factors, it will be reflective. Also, what we're looking at in here is RTO and RPO. So because we did that analysis and we have an RTO and RPO against each of these processes, we can then associate those to this plan. And so this is going to take the most restrictive, of course, whatever methodology you want to follow in terms of assigning the RTO and RPO. If you want to override it manually, you could, but the system is automatically going to say, okay, because these processes are involved in this plan, this is the RTO and RPO that is most restrictive against those that we want to stay within as much as possible if this was a live event. Now that we have the overview, our objectives, our assumptions, all of that, our ownership, and then also now the processes and dependencies, now we can figure out how we're going to respond. And so one of the key tables within this solution is our activity library, where you are able to associate different response procedures or activities that you would associate with these plans. And so our emergency evacuation, what do we do for that? Our priority system recovery. And so each of these are going to have steps within them that you can allocate and then associate with an actual plan within here. So this one is estimated to take 4 hours. These are the details. And then also, you don't have to initiate recovery activities for each plan individually. One activity can relate to multiple plans, and then we'll talk about how we can activate these and actually collect metrics against the estimated versus actual duration as well. But something I want to highlight here is the ability to include AI. And so having AI suggest activities. So you can say, this is my IT disaster recovery. I've went in and put the assumptions and the scope and objectives within here. I've outlined those processes and dependencies. And now AI is going to go and reference all that information, and it's going to suggest, hey, AI thinks that these activities should be allocated to this plan. We think you should go through these steps when this plan is enacted. And so it's going to go reference your activity library and what you have in this plan, and it's going to populate this right here. In addition, it's also going to give us some rationale. So as it's loading and referencing all of that, I'll kind of point down the line of it's actually going to let you know, hey, this is why we chose these activities, and these are additional dependencies you may want to think about for this plan as well. And so anything else that you may want to consider for these activities and these different steps you're going to take within this plan can all be referenced as well. So it just ran. It just looked through all my activities. It selected 5 within here. So it thinks we have 5 recovery activities we need to go through. They're estimated to take this long because of this estimation. And then additionally, we have AI giving us some additional context, such as the rationale of why it chose those based on the RTO and RPO, based on the different references we have, and then also any dependencies or prerequisites as well, such as those mappings, those network connectivity things, and things like that. And it also gave us the confidence level. So I always get questions about how accurate or how reliable is the AI. And so one, helping it give you information in terms of as it starts to learn more and more, its confidence level of how accurate or how confident it is in this information for its recovery activities against this plan. But additionally, being able to always have a human in the loop review. So even though AI has done a lot of the work, it's suggested activities, and it even can create new activities if you don't have one in your library. It's giving you that rationale. You can always come in behind it and do your human in the loop review. Something also as well, this is just one example of an AI automation in here. There's lots of use cases and lots of uses. If you want it to help you develop the entire plan, it could help you develop all of that from beginning to end as well. And so I definitely recommend we have some webinars on AI as well. We could this could be a whole session as it relates to business continuity, or reach out to our team. We'd be happy to show some additional as well, because this automation is just in the back end running, and you can do your own custom prompts. So just like you put in a prompt to maybe a ChatGPT or OpenAI, you can put together a prompt and it can be behind a button or behind any type of automation and can initiate automatically within your business continuity program. So I'll move on from there and go down to the last piece of this in terms of developing this plan, which is the communication notification. So letting people know about this plan. And so Paul is our contact matrix. We have all these other contacts who we're wanting to communicate with. And then we also could put together a script or a notification. So if this was activated, a notification, maybe text messages or smartphone notifications to let people know, hey, this has been enacted as live, and these are the different activities or different steps you need to complete as part of this plan. All right, so I've just done a lot of talking in terms of this plan, but to kind of summarize it all together, we have walked through identifying this plan, what type of plan it is. It's an ITDR plan, but we can have other types as well. We have set the stage with our overview, such as scope and objectives. And then we have assigned ownership. So who's involved with this plan? What are the different processes and dependencies that are involved? And then utilized AI to help us get our recovery activities from here. And so now we have this full plan together. And so we'll move into how we can use this plan and how we can test this and then how we can activate this. And so down here, not only being able to maintain your plans, but being able to actually test them. And so you have the ability to set up a testing cadence. So if you have regular review, right, because we're always wanting to check in or test, or whether that's a tabletop or a walkthrough test, we can have that associated within here. And so I can ad hoc just say, hey, we're going to test this plan, click this button, and it's going to initiate a test. or you can have it go off the next due date. And so you can say, hey, on May 5th, we want a test to be kicked off. We want those notifications to be kicked off, and we want to be able to walk through kind of the walkthrough steps of this plan. And so you can see from that click, we have just moved our IT disaster recovery down to testing. So now we know that we're going through a testing process, and then this test record was created. When this test record is created, it's going to time and date stamp this in terms of this is when we're doing it. It's just an ad hoc test. It's active right now, and we can go through the process of what type of test this is, what plan we are testing within here, and then all of those recovery activities. So AI just initiated and created all those recovery activities for us. And now when we activate this for a test, those were all created as recovery activities. And so those were created in our other table. And then all these activity leads were given notifications letting them know that they are activity leads. This is a test. And now we want to walk through and start collecting how long the duration it takes against our estimated duration. And then from there, we can do an outcome. What was our feeling about this? Did it pass? Did it fail? How satisfied are we with this plan? It's ineffective. We need to go make adjustments to this plan. And so documenting your lessons learned. And so you can apply those new findings and new observations of this test back to this plan. And because this is its own activation linked record, you can do this over and over again. So you can see how you're trending, see how different tests are conducted, and derive metrics and values from there as well. And so we can see this is the last test. We get the last test result, and then we can do a next test on May 5th to get a new value. Similarly to testing, we can also activate these plans. And so if this was a live incident and we wanted to activate it, we could activate it. And the same thing would happen. A new record would be created, all those activities would be created, and a notification would be sent out letting everyone know that we need to go through these steps. This is a live event. Of course, a live event is going to be communicated differently than a test. And so we're capturing those differently and individually. And so you can see this was created, an active event. It's a disaster within here. These are our target RTO and RPO values, and then being able to associate all of those activities and who's been assigned to them to actually go through this process. All right. So that's activating a plan. A lot of times we also want to associate these with an incident. And so being able to have an incident within here, I noted this at the beginning, we have an incident management solution. And so being able to link these to an incident within our incidents table, we can say, okay, this applies to whether we create a new one or this actually is related to this data leakage, if you will, being able to associate it within there. In fact, we actually have a spot within the incidents where as part of, I won't walk through this too much, but it has a full workflow in terms of how we want to respond. But within the response, we can say we need a BCDR plan. We actually need one of our live plans. We're not going to just use our response procedures. And if so, being able to go and select that plan from the incident side as well. So whether you're activating it from the BC side or the incident side, they are integrated and connected. So you're seeing those metrics flow through and through, and those recovery activities and RTO and RPO values flowing through and through as well. All right. So that is the ability to actually utilize these plans in an activated event and associate incidents, and then being able to track those over time. So each time we activate it, each time there's an incident, we're tracking that against here. So we have lots of metrics and values and gap analysis. So we are continually updating and improving these plans as well. I'm going to flow back to the beginning and talk about, we just walked through the workflow of creating this plan, testing this plan, activating this plan, and as soon as we approve it now, being able to create a hard copy document of this. And so as soon as we move it to approved and we say, hey, this plan is ready, we got all of our readiness and response ready, we've tested it, we then can move it to approved, and then the system is going to create a PDF version. So we have an automation built in here where it is going to take all of the information and it is going to put it on a document. And so we can see here, we have our SmartSuite business continuity and disaster recovery plan. And we have all that data that we just evaluated within that record view now in a hard copy document. So we can see all the contents, all the information that's going to be included within here, that introduction, there's our purpose, our objectives, our scope, assumptions, the different information such as that review cycle, the program manager, and then even the live information in terms of, linked records. And so we have our different processes within here. And then within there, we also have all of the contingent contacts, applications, vendors, so on and so forth. So I won't spend too much time into here because we could go through this full document, but these are customizable. So we could put your logo on here, the different information that you're wanting to capture, those different fields. If you add fields and you really tailor it to your experience, being able to then configure this exportable information so you have not only it within the system and being able to document that, but at any point in time, I know this is really critical for business continuity and disaster recovery, is to have that PDF document as well. So you can see I even have a new one. I've ran this through that approval twice as I was walking through it earlier today and then even now. And so at any point in time, if you wanted to initiate a new document, so you have those new changes reflected, it can create that new document and then it's linked here in addition to being able to distribute that to the different facilities, to the different business owners, things like that. All right, I've been talking a lot. People are probably tired of my voice a little bit. I'm going to conclude with some dashboarding here in a second, but before I do that, John, if you had anything just to kind of highlight or color commentary on a plan, maybe some things you're doing differently or things you found with being able to develop your business continuity disaster recovery plans or within the solution, anything you'd like to highlight or add there?
Yeah. So I guess just looking at the BIAs that you went over, which were already great, right? I mean, you covered a lot of the good to it, which is the BIA records being pre-linked to dependencies, making downstream risk more visible. I know there's a lot of organizations out there that are likely dealing with siloed Word documents, and a lot of what I've gotten from both assessors and from the stakeholders that I need to gather data from is that, hey, these are plans that just, sit in binders and going from this system to keep them from being buried in binders and then really building them more into the operating rhythm and reporting is really the most strategic thing you can do here. And I think that if you haven't seen the power here yet of being able to take an incident in live time, being able to, automate it out, even the automation's taking no more than 5 minutes to put together. When you're looking at your last testage, your next dues, your test results, it's just not about writing plans for the shelf, but really writing them to execute and make them more visible to the right functions. And then not burying those BIAs and binders and really building them out like we had talked about in the operational workflow. But that emergency response, I mean, creating an event to an incident and then umbrellaing situations such as, storm, cyber attacks, whatever you're dealing with, power loss at, site A, it really allows you to capture those records and timelines and then go back for continuous improvement too when you're breaking in policies and procedures, especially when you're tying this into potential OSINT tools that you may be using out there. I know a lot of organizations are leveraging those and being able to pull that data across is really good because it supports that NIST 2 Article 23 for incident notification. And then also to the ISO 22301, which is the 8.4.5, which is emergency response structure. So it's just real emergency responses isn't about speed. It's about that structured speed of what you just laid out. And I haven't seen it done well in the past with a lot of other organizations in terms of if someone has to rush to a binder and open it and try to thumb through to a, hopefully a color coded tab or page, it's not going to provide you that speed that you need. And then being able to link in all the different dependencies, all the different, functions across the organization. It's really cutting down the amount of time you got to make on phone calls or Teams messages or Slack or whatever else, and you're trying to orchestrate this huge thing when it's just a mess. So the system really adds a lot of good automation where we're sending out, automated emails with links and things like that to where they can automatically come in and action those things. And it's just really cutting on the downtime of that emergency response. So I think you nailed it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for that. And we'll show some dashboards here in just a second and how, as John's talking about, a quick way to get to the things you have within here, the plans, activating all of these. And so I'm going to finish up with two things with automations and talking about, I've talked a lot about how the system can help you with a lot of things, reducing time and effort and doing a lot of that continuous management of these plans and even the assessments within here, and then also some reporting. And I see Barry had a question about SmartSuite creating the PDF summarizing the record data, which is actually going to be in our automation engine and drive us there. But as we're getting to this last 10 minutes, as I show these last two things, automations and dashboards, if you guys have any additional questions, please put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll take a second here at the end to answer some of those. So To conclude, for automations, to be able to see and manage all the automations within the solution, you can really easily click on the title right here, and then the automation engine is within here. So you can see we have 8 already built within here to help with some of this. And so you can see like when the BAA is complete, go and update the process. When we hit that activate button, these are all automations that are running. When the dependencies change, go and update the plan. And so two of these that I want to, or one of these that I want to highlight within here is being able to, or two of these, one is the PDF and then one is the AI. And so if I click into here for that generating PDF, this is the automation that's creating those. And so all of the SmartSuite automations are when this happens, then do this. It's a trigger and an action. So you can designate that and said, okay, what is the trigger? Maybe it's when a record matches a condition. Maybe it's when something is updated. Maybe that form is submitted. We talked about that form very briefly. Maybe it's at a scheduled time every single quarter on this date. Go and initiate this, or when a button is clicked, kind of like when we had those buttons within to test or activate. And so you can designate that condition. This specifically is once that plan is moved to approved, then go and generate the PDF. And so this is utilizing our Docs Automator integration. Native integration to be able to go and create that export. And so our colleague Brian, who I work with all the time, is very technical savvy with these and really formatting these really well. Although I've heard they're very, very easy to assemble. So if you have a template for your export, being able to mimic that export in a Docs Automator document, and then being able to put that in an automation so that whenever that status is marked approved, it goes to this automation, and then additionally, it goes and attaches that. So you saw I was in the record and it had one already in there, and then as I updated and I hit approved again, it attached another one. So not only is it going to generate it, but it's automatically going to link it straight within that record as well. So you always have that most up-to-date version of that PDF export. So that's one automation. Another one is the AI automation. And so same thing, being able to come back here and do a trigger and an action. This is specifically when that button is clicked, because I had a button and I clicked it and then it suggested all of those activities. And so then it goes through the process of going and finding. It goes through that recovery activity library. So all of the library records I have, and then it runs through this AI prompt. And so this right here in the middle is that prompt that you can customize and tell AI exactly what you want it to do. And so this one specifically, its input is taking into account all that information. So these blue boxes are actually fields. So you can have the AI go look at these fields, go look at the disaster recovery plan context, go look at the recovery activity context, and then go and create the top 5 recovery activities that are applicable. And so giving it full direct information, even telling it you're assisting the creation of a business continuity disaster recovery plan. So you can get really creative in terms of how you're setting the system up to then go through that. And then it'll go update the records, and it's going to go and make all those linkages and even provide that rationale, those dependencies. And so being able to tell it not only what you want it to think about, but also where you want it to put that information and what you want the output to be. So again, like I said, AI, there's a lot of information here. We also have bring your own LLM. So whatever learning model, whatever AI model you're utilizing, you can plug that into here. And so you're not using a SmartSuite model or something we're using, you're using your contracted model that your organization has terms with, and being able to plug that in. So you can see here a long list of them in addition to more, and then being able to select even more specifics, the different versions or different types within each of these models as well. So I'll close out of here, and I'm just going to finish on a couple dashboards and talk about some of the reporting within here. We have different types or different views of reports. First is just an overview. So being able to see a high-level overview of my plans, such as how many approved plans do I have? What is the status of them? Okay, I want to go look at all of my ITDR plans. Here they are right here. And then being able to quickly activate or test them at any time. So as John was just mentioning, quickly being able to be structured, but also efficient, being able to go activate and click this button at any time and have those initiated. and then being able to see a high-level overview of those activations. So what's happening right now? What is going on in terms of our estimated versus our actual? We're getting really close to this being over our estimated duration of how long those response procedures should happen. And then also being able to see the status of each of those activities against each of those activations. So we can see if anything was skipped, why was it skipped? We can drill into here and see those details within here. All of these reports are real time. So they're going to give you the most live data, the live trend data, status data, but they're also going to be drill down capable. So I can click in here at any time. We also can report off linked records. And so as John and I have mentioned throughout this multiple times, being able to link that connection to incidents within here, you can see, okay, what are all the incidents that are enacting a BCDR plan and be able to see that data and those metrics straight on a dashboard as well. Last thing I'll highlight is those were overview dashboards, but we also have different users. We have plan owners, we have analysts, we have recovery leads. And so each person may need a different view into the data so they can quickly see what they need to pay attention to, especially as these things are automatically notifying and letting people know about these activities. They have a quick spot to land and see what needs their attention. So a plan owner can come in here and see the status of all their plans, the comparison of their RTO and RPOs within here. They can even see a calendar. So if you have dates coming up where we need to test or maybe where an incident was enacted, you can see on a calendar all of those dates and even drill into here and see that data behind. And then additionally, being able to have a recovery lead, see, okay, this is currently active right now. What is the process of us getting all these activities completed? What is our comparison of our estimated and actual duration versus our RTO and RPO? This one's not looking so good. So quickly being able to drill in there and see those details. And then an actual activity lead. This is somebody who got that notification, maybe on their phone, on their smart device, on their email, letting them know they need to manage an activity like a site activation or backup or a system restoration. And so they can come in here and see what are the activities they need to complete and quickly drill into those and do their action items straight from the dashboard. So there's lots of functionality within here. Additionally, we can really easily edit these. So if you like what you're seeing, but you wanted to make some adjustments or add some others, we have lots of different widget types to do lots of different metrics within here, lots of different views and additional chart types. And so you can really customize these to display the data you want as it pertains to your business continuity and disaster recovery plans. All right, that sums up. I gave us about 3 minutes left. I'll see if there's any questions. Rick, do we have any questions? All right, thanks, Barry. I'm glad you're able to join today. Hopefully this is helpful.
We have a question here from Jamie asking about anything else you can share around the PDF documentation, or at least the table of contents. Like, do you have a demo version that you can share out with her?
Oh yeah, so we actually, and Rick, do we have the recording of that Docs Automator webinar too, or maybe that would provide more context?
We do, indeed we
Yeah.
do, yeah.
Yeah, so on our website, we actually had a webinar similar to this, but all tailored around those documents and those exports and that Docs Automator integration. And so highly recommend checking that out. But there is a lot of functionality or customization in terms of how you want the table of contents to be in there, what exact fields you want it to pull and actually land on that document. And so check that out. And if you have further questions, we'd be happy to have a conversation, even one-on-one as well, if you want to learn more.
Yep, Jamie, I just dropped that in the chat for you there. That's a short video, so that's not the webinar, but it's about a 6-minute version that'll walk you through how to leverage that. Document creation is becoming critical in many of the workflows. I know John, it's something that John's engaging in as well. So we're looking at as a need for the business.
Yeah.
Very good. That's all from the Q&A.
All right. John, do you have any kind of wrap up things or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah. I think just kind of on the document piece, I know that that's something I've been working with the team on, and I know that we've been developing out something that's a little bit more specific to our business. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what we've seen when we've had both customers and auditors come in is, do you have a plan? And you need to be able to break out sort of like a different visible plan that you provide to them versus what you have internally. Number one, there's a lot of, proprietary confidential recovery information that could potentially be in there, but just having a customer facing and client facing PDF is definitely viable. I know where everybody's coming from on that, having your title page, your table of contents, all your processes, and then sort of your condensed down customer facing or client facing BIAs. And then what we're also doing is tagging our recovery, or not recovery, excuse me, our after action review of our tabletop exercises or our activated plans. So like testing your plans, because most of what we're seeing with our customers is do you have a plan and when's the last time you tested it? And so that it's definitely doable. I know that we're working on it and building it out for ourselves to make sure that it fits our branding and our scope and what we're looking at. But yeah, absolutely. Powerful tool. Love it.
Right. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we appreciate all y'all joining today. Hopefully this was helpful. Happy to have further conversations if anybody's curious. But hope everyone has a good rest of their Wednesday.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for sharing the time.